reporting in Asia and the Pacific. I hope everyone is well today. This is our second Q&A session dedicated to the filling out of the questionnaire, this time on section 2, which concerns the World Heritage properties each and every one of the World Heritage properties. And thank you to everyone who's been very actively engaged in the process so far. I think we have made a lot of progress with the exercise, although we still have a lot of ways to go until the final submission at the end of July. I would like to also share the greetings of Fang Jing, the chief of the Asia Pacific unit here at the World Heritage Center, who was called last minute into another meeting this morning and cannot be with us, but shares his very warmest regards with all of you. As Michel mentioned, we ran over with our session on management documents and impact assessments during our last session, and so I'm very glad to welcome back today Dr. Gautam and Mr. Niraj Kakati from the Center on World Natural Heritage Management and Training for Asia and the Pacific at the Wildlife Institute of India, which is a Category 2 center under the auspices of UNESCO, who will present some highlights of their work relating to management and management plans, I believe, and I'm very, very glad that they've accepted to shift this presentation to today. After that, we will open the floor for questions, as Michel mentioned. If there is anything that comes to mind, either during the presentation or at any point today, feel free to write the questions in the chat, or we can also take the questions live. And we have colleagues both from the Asia Pacific unit with us and from other units of the center, and I believe also some colleagues from the advisory bodies who may be joining as well today. As in previous weeks, the session will be recorded, and the video and any presentations used will be shared with the site managers after the session, and with the national focal points as well. And we absolutely encourage you to disseminate this with everyone who is interested and involved as a stakeholder in filling out section 2 of the questionnaire, as this may be helpful to them. Before I pass the floor, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Republic of Korea, and especially the Cultural Heritage Administration, whose support makes all of this training possible, and as well as the follow-up of the exercise by the Asia Pacific unit here at the center, and we're very grateful for that. And so without further delay, I will pass on to our dear guests from the Wildlife Institute of India for a presentation on their work. Thank you very much, and I will see you for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Anatole. Thank you, Michel. Can you hear me? It's all okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, and greetings from India. A very good morning, good day, good evening to all the participants across the continents, from Europe to Asia Pacific. So my name is Niraj, and I'm representing the Wildlife Institute of India Category 2 Center on World Natural Heritage Management and Training. So I have a very brief presentation in continuation of last week's or the week before that session, and hopefully I can I'll just share my presentation now. Yes. Okay, is my slide visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a brief two-part presentation. One will be speaking about a management planning exercise that we have supported for a particular World Heritage site. And in the second part, also our association with management effectiveness evaluation of protected areas, specifically in India and elsewhere. And I'm making this presentation on behalf of Dr. Gautam, who is also in parallel meetings across the board. And hopefully we are able to do justice to what we want to share with all of you. So, the Kanchenjunga National Park was one of the most recent natural and mixed site that was added to the Indian list of World Heritage sites. It was inscribed in 2016. And most management plans here are of a 10-year duration. So as this came up, as the management plan for Kanchenjunga came up for renewal and review, so the Wildlife Institute of India, we were involved in entire the process of drafting and preparing a new and revised management plan for the year 2018 to 2028 for the next 10 years. And very broadly, it has two parts. Basically, the first part speaks about the existing information and the context of the site. And the second part talks about all the proposed management plan and the prescriptions, where it's the objectives, the strategies, and the various different themes of what the management plan covers. I won't go into individual details, but we'll give you a broad overview. And when we speak about this national park, of course, as a protected area, it has its own legal entity. But as Kanchenjunga is also a World Heritage Site, we specifically included and incorporated the heritage values in this particular management planning system. So as you can see in the very vision itself, it seeks to preserve and maintain the outstanding, both the ecological as well as the socio-cultural values of the park, as it is a mixed World Heritage Site. And it includes the participation of local communities and other stakeholders. And in the goals as well, we very pointedly mentioned that one of the key goals of this management plan is to conserve and enhance the outstanding universal values of the particular Kanchenjunga National Park. So the World Heritage orientation is at the outset itself is laid out very clearly that this national park, along with all its other legal implications, it also has a World Heritage value, and we need to take into account the OUV of the park in terms of helping to manage this park. We have identified many different challenges for the management, whether it's about the protection system, invasive species, community participation, tourism as well. And all these challenges find mention and are manifested in the management plan and the various other theme plans that we have classified this plan into. So here we speak about very specific theme plans of how the management plan mentions. So it talks about the protection mechanism, and all this are directly linked to what a World Heritage site requires, whether it is the protection and management system and all its various details about both in terms of the infrastructure, both in terms of how the other values, along with the ecological values, how the other cultural and sacred values as well have to be protected, the strategies to mitigate all the issues. And the species conservation plan requires a very specific focus because, as you are aware, this Kanchenjunga National Plan, Kanchenjunga National Park, and the World Heritage Site has been inscribed on cultural criteria 3 and 6, as well as in the natural criteria 7 and number 10. So where it talks about in situ conservation of threatened species. So we have identified at least 4 flagship species of this particular site and provided specific conservation plans for each of these species. Along with that, some of the issues we speak about is human-wildlife conflict. It's if not a very significant, but of course is a major issue this in and around the site. The Kanchenjunga National Park is also nestled within the larger biosphere reserve. So this is our national park, it is a World Heritage Site. It is also a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve under the Man and Biosphere Program. So many of these designations come together and overlap across, and this management plan must take into account all these different dimensions of the issues that a particular site that is facing. So along with all these theme plans, we also talk about eco-development planning. So the communities are a very key stakeholder, of course, in all World Heritage Sites as well as national parks. So the national park has a number of eco-development committees where these local communities are members of these communities, and they are very closely associated with the management system of the park. And how these communities are benefiting and what are the engagement mechanisms have all been detailed in an eco-development plan. That is, talk about wildlife health management, because there may be cross exchange between domestic and wild species along these areas, because there's a lot of migration of species along both from the plains to the high altitudes. And specifically for World Heritage, again, there is the climate change adaptation and management plan, as this site is a very high altitude zone. from snow and glaciers, and the river and water systems are very sensitive to climate change changes. So we have given detailed information about the impacts of climate change on this site, as well as suggesting various adaptive measures. Again, as part of the operational guidelines, which states that a protection and management system must also speak about a very specific disaster or risk management plan, which we have also incorporated in this Kanchenjunga management plan. And most PAs are almost generally vulnerable to various induced disasters, but this plaque also talks about most common disasters that this site is prone to. And we've also suggested many active or reactive measures, to deal with such disasters. So all these, theme plans try and fit in the overall scheme of a national park, but also trying to, link it with the requirements that a World Heritage Site specifically requires, whether it's about protection, whether it's about dealing with the criterias, whether it's about climate change, as well as disaster risk and management. And along with these theme plans, we have, of course, identified many different, gaps, especially related to research. What are the major issues that require more additional attention, whether it's about biodiversity, whether it's about ecosystem services, whether it's about the ecology and the habitat that all these species are involved in this particular site, because it also fulfills criteria 10. Along with that, we've recommended many different monitoring strategies. That is about priority areas to identify threats and various other species monitoring tools, as well as management evaluation. And training and capacity building, again, a very key objective of the World Heritage System. The World Heritage capacity building strategy also has gone on to capacity building as a larger dimension than purely training of individual practitioners. So both in terms of institutional mechanisms, as well as for different levels of officials and stakeholders, we've identified specific capacity development needs for this particular site. So this is, in short and brief, a very broad overview of what the Kanchenjunga National Park and World Heritage Site Management Plan incorporates and includes in its overall system. It is, I think, pointless to go into specific details, but we have sought to cover the overall national park dimensions, the cultural factors, and as well as along with the ecological factors, and also how we are able to incorporate specific World Heritage Site management needs. Okay, in terms of protection, in terms of how integrity and authenticity is ensured, and how the different protection mechanisms and management needs, including climate change and other disaster management plans, are also part of this particular planning. And while this is the first such plan for a World Heritage Site that we have been associated with, we are now looking forward to also, closely working with some of the other World Heritage Sites within India, of course, in terms of helping to review and develop their management plans, so that there is a much stronger connect with the specific OUV component of those sites. And I think this was also one of the results and outcomes of the periodic reporting second cycle, which for Asia Pacific, which took place over almost 10 years back. One of the major outcomes was that the management plans needs to be very closely linked to OUVs. So we are trying to work on those lines and hopefully reach out larger to the Asia Pacific audience and to the other sites as well, and how we can work closely. This is about the management plan of the Kanchenjunga National Park. And the second part, again, a very brief 4 to 5 slides, is about the management effectiveness evaluation. The MEE, in short, that we call it, has been in a work in progress over almost the last 15 to 20 years. And at the international level, the World Parks Congress, the CBD, and IUCN have very strongly emphasized on management evaluation of protected areas. On its part, India as well, has sought to adapt and institutionalize this management evaluation process for all its protected areas and across the levels, whether it's national parks, whether it's wildlife sanctuaries, conservation reserves, community reserves, especially for all the natural sites. And India, as an official policy, has sought to institutionalize this process. And the Wildlife Institute of India, of which we are a part, the center is a part, is actually the nodal agency to help coordinate this entire MEE process for the Indian natural sites. And this framework for management evaluation, I believe a lot of you will be aware of, has been adapted from the IUCN's IUCN and the WCPA framework. And this involves a very comprehensive 360-degree evaluation. So whether it is about the context and the planning of the site, whether it's the resources required and the processes that have been taken, involved in helping to manage this site, and finally the outputs and the outcomes achieved in terms of this entire management process. So how a site has performed across all these different dimensions, that is what the MEE framework helps to evaluate. And we have found that as a very helpful framework. And India has adapted this general framework of IUCN into for its own needs in terms of its national processes and sites. And a very comprehensive review we have been doing for the MEE. And since 2006, almost 4 rounds of management effectiveness evaluation of all protected areas in India has been undertaken across every 4 years. So from 2006, in 2010, in 2014, and 2019, almost all the protected areas of India have been covered, and very detailed reports have been published. These are all in the public domain. And to continue this particular process, in fact, now currently during 2020-21, another of over 200 the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries within India is again undergoing a repeat evaluation, so that we are aware of how the trend of these sites are going, whether they are improving, whether they have gone down, whether they have deteriorated, or whether they've improved or remained in the same mechanism. Now this requires a very comprehensive process. So the entire country is actually divided and classified into geographical zones, so they are north, east, south, west, accordingly. And each of these zones, there are specific teams where this evaluation is undertaken, and these independent evaluators go to these sites as well as do secondary and literature review, and do this entire evaluation process to find out how this management system is functioning in these particular sites. What is important in this entire management systems, while almost 200 to nearly 400 to 500 sites have been evaluated across the last 10 to 15 years, the 8 natural World Heritage sites in India, 7 natural and 1 mixed, natural plus cultural, are almost all national parks. So all these parks as well fall within this entire MEE process of within the country. And as you can see, the Western Ghats is a serial site, which again is a conglomeration of many national parks and sites. So one of its major tiger reserves have also been evaluated. And all these national parks and World Heritage sites in India have also been evaluated under this MEE process. And they have got many different gradings based on their performance. Most of them are doing fairly well, and either good or very good. And wherever the issues and management challenges are sort of appear or identified, they are then communicated back to the sites and to the overall national agency for undertaking mitigating measures. So in this particular way, not only are we working in terms of helping to link management plans more closely with the OUVs and the focus on OUVs, but also in terms of management evaluation of protected areas, especially natural sites in India. We are also including all the World Heritage sites in this process, and hopefully we are able to get more specific information, and these information, challenges, issues, as well as the mitigating measures are able to find their way into the management planning system, so that these sites can develop into a more robust management mechanism and processes. So thank you, and this is what briefly we had to share. And if there is anything in detail that any of our partners from across the continent in Asia Pacific would want to share or want to know, we'll be very happy, both individually as well as collectively, to share with you, as well as give any technical support that is required. Thank you very much. Yeah, over to you, Anatole, Michelle.
Thank you very much. I think this is again a very, very helpful presentation to see all the possibilities and all that can be done, and how to envisage the very important task of setting and structuring management plan and management documents, which, as you all know, is an important requirement under the formality, but really sites in depth and all of the components that we have talked about throughout the training sessions since September, and seeing how they all fit together really for each site. So thank you very much for this and for your kind participation as well.
Yeah,
and I think now we can move to the question and answers section of today's session, including, of course, if people have questions for our presenter, please do feel free to share them as well. I've seen one point raised in the chat that Michelle might want to pick up on, but before we go there, in terms of housekeeping, we have, I believe, left both options open for people to either take the floor via video and live or to write the questions directly into the chat. And of course, as always, if there is a brilliant question that comes to you 2 hours from now and that you'd like to share, do email us at the email of wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org, which will be in the chat box as well. And we will very happily respond. And if needed, pick it up as well during the next session so that everyone may benefit. Michelle, do you want to just quickly on questions of access and various technical matters pick up, and then we can open the floor to questions on section 2 of the questionnaire. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So with regards to access to the questionnaire, this is something that has been a reoccurring theme. So it's good to always review. If there is a change in site management or site managers are having difficulties accessing the questionnaire, they can email us at wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org with the national focal point and copy. If this does not work and we haven't responded in a timely fashion, we do try our best to respond in the day or two that we receive the mail. But if for some reason it gets blocked or it gets sent to spam, we do receive the emails of all of the national focal points. So as the national focal point, we highly suggest that you can gather all of the required information and then send it to us as the national focal point, essentially explaining, yes, these site managers have not had access. Could you please assist us with this? That would be the best solution. Otherwise, yes, emailing wh-periodic reporting is the most direct and simple way of addressing this. The one thing I would like to mention is that the email that was sent to us as associated with the site manager must be the one that you use to log in to the questionnaire. So if, for example, you give us your official work email for a site manager to log in, and then that site manager must then use that email to log in. They cannot use another email. But yes, as you can see in chat, the email to send any requests, questions is in the chat. So make sure that you take note of it and email us when you can.
Thank you very much. So do we have any questions from either national focal points or site managers about the questionnaire? The floor is all yours. Yes, so there's a question about deadlines, which I'll pick up on straight away. For this cycle, as we've said before, we have added 2 early completion deadlines, which are informal deadlines. One for section 1, which was at the end of January, and one for section 2, which is at the end of this month. These are not formal submission deadlines. It is just a request that we have made to all of you to complete as much as possible of the questionnaires by this point, so that our teams of content supporters and reviewers may have a look at the questionnaire and that all of you have filled out, and reach out to you if needed, and if they see anything that requires perhaps some attention or feel that a question may not have been answered with a good understanding of the questions. Some of them are long and complex in formulation and can be a little confusing, and we're very aware of this. So that was also a way of ensuring that we end up with good, reliable data that also reflects all of the efforts that you all have put in. You have the possibility to revise everything until the submission of the questionnaire, and the deadline for that is the 31st of July of this year. For section 2, bear in mind that it does need to be validated by the national focal points. So once the site managers are done filling out the questionnaire, the national focal points will need to validate their work, which also normally means that they will need to look at the questionnaire beforehand. So do bear that in mind, but this is left to your own internal arrangements. The final cutoff deadline for us is the end of July, after which the questionnaires will be closed for filling out. But you do have the possibility of editing all of the questionnaire until the very end, and until the national focal points click submit in the questionnaire, at which point everything gets locked. Do bear in mind, this is especially a note for the national focal points. The moment you validate a section 2 questionnaire, site managers will not be able to edit it anymore. So if you consider that it is finished, that it is filled out sufficiently, then that is fine, but we would advise that you do so as close to your submission date as possible. And you do not, thank you very much for the question, absolutely do not click submit on the questionnaires at the end of March. We see all of the answers that you have put in at any times, and so does the entire content team. So we do not need you to submit it. We have visibility of what you have done. If you click submit, it means that you are locking the questionnaire for editing, on the other hand, and then we will need to go and undo this for you, which will mean that you risk losing a few days as well. But by the time the request reaches the right unit and so on and so forth. So please, there is no need to submit. Saving is enough. We cannot encourage you enough to use the save button at the bottom of the questionnaire. On the other hand, submit is for the very end, because once you submit, technically you conclude the reporting exercise as a whole. Okay, so I see there's a question from Niraj, question 12.2. Let me just pull up the question, that question for everyone to see. Tendentially, my answer is going to be yes to the question. Michel, could you read out the question while I try and share my screen?
Absolutely. So the question is, in question 12.1 and 12.2, does each of the tabs, criteria, action, agency, comments, etc., have to be commented upon for the question to be considered completed, or is there any tab optional? So yes, I agree with Anatole. The answer is yes, these should be filled in at a minimum. So we're going to assume that in this case, so section 12 is for section 2, because there are multiple tabs for this, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, anyway, the way that the questionnaire works in some cases is that if there are multiple tabs, there is a minimum amount that needs to be filled in. You can write no comment, or they're not applicable, or something to fill in the information that is in this box. That way it will actually be considered completed. Now, Anatole, if you could just scroll down to a question just for a moment.
I need to pull up an actual questionnaire, because our demo site does not have factors because it's not a real property.
Okay.
We need. Let me just select randomly from among her. But yes, sorry. the question concerns one of the questions that aggregates data, and so questions 12 pull information from the rest of the questionnaire and feed it into a summary table. Voila. So let's see. Let's see. So you can see here, for instance, for the factors affecting the property, the questionnaire gets pulled from the rest of the chapters, and then as a summary, you get factors affecting the property that are extracted and put into question 12.1. And we have seen this a couple of times before. For each question, you will get so which chapter and which factor is highlighted, as well as always, you have a bit of guidance here on the question with key terms and definitions from our guidance document that is embedded in the questionnaire. And then for all of this, you have the factor in question, which is here. And then you have a number of tabs: criteria, actions, monitoring, time frame, agency involved, and any comments that you may have. And I believe, at the very least, for the tabs, Valentino may want to clarify this, but for all of these tabs, if something has made it into the question, you will need to put in some text. I'm not sure about the comments, but for sure, all of the previous ones, even if there is nothing to say, you will still need to put, at the very least, not applicable or whatever it is. This way, the question is considered complete, and then you will get the little green tick over here. If you do not fill it out completely, this may be where your last percentages of completion down the line may be missing when you're at 98%, and you have completed all of the questionnaire and you cannot figure out where the problem may be, or where you're missing 2% may be. This could be one of them. So this is a very good question to come and double check, and the same is true for question 12.2 as well, I believe, where the same thing applies, where you have a summary table with follow-up actions. This one is for management needs, for instance, as well. You have the same thing: actions, time frame, agency, and comments, and there will need to be some text in all of these so that the question is considered complete. And then the little tick here goes from gray when the question is not completed to green when it is considered completed. Just Valentino, if for the comments, are they considered as well as part of the completion of the question? I believe they are, but I may be wrong. I don't. Okay, we may come back to this, but let's consider that all tabs will need to be filled out, including the comments. So if you have nothing to put in them, just put not applicable, and this way the questionnaire counts that question as answered. Very good. And yes, Michel shared as well in the chat a very helpful video that we made for the section 1 early completion deadline, but which very much applies to section 2 as well, which deals with what to do when you're at 99% completion, your entire questionnaire is complete, and you don't know where your unanswered question is, and goes through a number of known culprits of the missing last percentages, so that you may reach 100% if they are. And Valentina just confirmed as well that all for questions 12.1, 12.2, all little tabs are mandatory, including comments. So if you have no comments, then put not applicable. in the box, but something needs to be in the box. The questionnaire is not intelligent enough to distinguish between a comment and key information on this point, apparently. Okay, but thank you very much, Niraj, for that's a very, very good question, and one that I'm sure will help a lot of people. Yes, and absolutely, if you have any questions about a specific site that come up, especially for national focal points, but also for site managers, don't hesitate to reach out to us with specific dedicated questions. We are absolutely there to help you. And as Michelle said, we try and answer every question within 2 working days at most. If you have not received an answer, please don't hesitate to resend, because it most likely means that your message got lost somewhere. I mean, we can also get a little overwhelmed with too many requests at the same time, on top of everything else. But we are not offended if you send us reminders in any case. So please don't hesitate. We are definitely not ignoring you. Okay. Any other questions so far? Just as we go and before we move on, let me just go back to our section 2. This is my save button right here. This is the ultimate friend of the person who fills out the periodic reporting questionnaire, and we encourage you to save as often as possible. If you notice, this has been known to happen on occasion, that anything has changed compared to the last time you opened the questionnaire, or that a question has disappeared, please do get in touch. This seems to have, and I'm knocking on wood here, but this seems to have happened relatively little so far for Asia Pacific, so we're very happy. But if you notice any issues with answers that you've provided that have disappeared, do get in touch, and there can be a technical glitch in the system. But if there are very text-heavy questions, or if you make a comment or whatever it is where you feel that the text is very important, we always encourage you to keep an extra copy of it somewhere in a Word document or wherever, just in case anything happens, so that you don't lose your work. Do bear in mind that you also always have the possibility of using the export function when you have filled out the questionnaire to a large extent, where you can export the questionnaire as a Word document as well at any time throughout the process. And this way you have a record of what was put into the questionnaire on that day. Let's say that you've reached 98, 100%. This may be a good time to export your questionnaire just for your own records as well, and this way you keep a safe copy. Very well. Do we have anything else? Do any of also of our content teams? I know Richard McKay from e-commerce is with us, and all of our colleagues, Valentino. Does anyone have a point that they would like to highlight on the occasion of section 2 of the questionnaire? If not, we can always just address any interesting questions that have occurred as well during our next session. I see one raised hand in our chat. Yes. I don't.
So it's marked in the attendees list. Please go ahead. And if you could,
I have a question.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please.
Sorry. Okay. One of our site managers has a problem with section 11. It actually says choose minus 14 choices from the list. We don't know what to do.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
if you want, I can answer Anatol for this
yes,
question.
please, Valentino. This is one of our the recurring little problems of the questionnaire.
I don't know if you can put back your screen, or I can show my screen or show any screen. You don't mind we see your questionnaire? If you may, you can, if you want to see, we look at your questionnaire, just tell us the name of the site so that we can access.
Sure, it is Masjid Jame Esfahan.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I will show the screen.
Yes.
Anatol.
Okay.
So just a moment. By the way, good morning and good evening to everyone. Just okay, here the questionnaire, and the questionnaire is questionnaire 11. Just as Anatol has mentioned, if you want to know exactly which question is not answered, as you can see, all has been answered, marked with a green tick, and only question 11, chapter 11, where you have a problem because it's still the green, the gray folder. So here it is. You have this, that is right now it said, please select minus 13 issues. It is because in this, at this stage, you need to select only 10, only maximum 10, which is that you need to unselect any of them to reach 10 over 10. This is because you have select, if I deselect one, for example, this one, you will see it come to 22. You have to go to reach until 10 so that you can, so that it will work. Please note that everything that you select here is going to have an impact on the next questions. So every time you deselect, you need to go back to the chapter 12, especially to check if the question, if there is anything has been generated because you have modifying the previous chapters before chapter 12. Does it answer your question?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I believe that the question in chat also was addressing a similar issue. So hopefully this answers your question, unless it's dealing with another subject.
I think it is in fact yes. It's the same question from the same site. So yes.
Anatol, if I may also, I just would like to say one question I've been asked in the chat previously concerning Pakistan. Abdul Azim, who has sent this question, is has been sent to Michelle, but if I may, Michelle, I can also answer the question. For Pakistan, we have actually sent, we have received emails, a couple of emails in the beginning of the year and in February also. And we have sent all to each site managers who are having problems access to the questionnaire, and with some of them we have even defined the password for them with them. So we have sent them back this question, these accesses, but we have sent by email. So in any case, if we have they have not received, they can still call us, send it back an email so that we will look at them. And we have received recently, Michelle, maybe you can compliment on the Pakistan, that, but that email does not correspond to what we have in the database. If the site manager need to write it to us, we need to ensure for the security of the access to the questionnaire that they send us with the email they use to access the questionnaire. So that we have first need to check if it is a right email corresponding to the right questionnaire. Thank you.
Yes, the only thing I would like to add to that is I'm 100% with what Valentino has said. For us, it's very important to make sure that the emails match. And there are some cases early on when the emails were sent to us and there was one letter missing or there was one letter changed in the email, and that can affect how they gain access. So we will be sure to follow up as much as possible to ensure that everybody has access as soon as possible. We have another hand in the chat. If you can please go ahead and state your name, position, and World Heritage Site, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
This was Mr. Ali Shero Ismailov. If you are still on the line, yes, perfect.
It seems you're still muted, but your camera seems to work.
Otherwise, don't hesitate to type the questions as well into the chat if there are technical issues with the microphones.
Unless, sir, if you could quickly nod your head to let us know if you have raised your hand to ask a question. It seems like you're still muted. I think for now, unless your microphone has some technical difficulties, please type the question in chat and we'll be sure to answer.
Very good. Otherwise, Valentino, from your experiences, are there any other questions than the aggregating questions that have tripped our respondents up in the other regions for section 2? Anything to look out for?
Yes, we can. This is one point which is come very recurrently. If you can share your screen, Anatole, because I have issues with mine. For chapter 2 concerning synergies with other conventions programs.
Yes.
You can go to the demo version. So in these questions, you will be asked to look at sites which for example, this question 2.1, where we've been asked if your site is designated under another convention or programs. For this case, you have the list here. Please make sure that you check that it is actually within for example, let's say question 2.1.1, when you've been asked if your site is also designated, for example, if you can go, let's say 2.1.3 under Ramsar site, which is quite common, or a global geoparks. Sometimes part of your site is part of it. So if it's part of it, you should consider that as yes, that your site is is covered under the, for example, Ramsar site, or especially for natural site, or biosphere reserve or global geopark. It is because also we have noticed that some sites are partly, and because the site is not the same way of writing, or only the part of your site is different, so you do not consider as part of the Ramsar site. And the same is true for the opposite way, where you've been you might want to check if you go up Anatole, when it comes to conventions, for example, the Hague Convention, that sometimes we have noticed that some sites say that they are under protection, but your country has not ratified the convention. This means that if you are not sure if your site is protected under if your site is protected under a convention, you might need to check with the national focal points. If you go, please go scroll down to the other questions where you have the list of.
Yes.
Yes, for all these questions, so you will see that if you're not sure that your site is under a global geoparks or any of these designations, question 2.7, also you have this list. if you're not sure, please contact, because there will be a discrepancy, because your site will mention that your country is not under this convention, but you mention, I mean, some will mention that the site they are actually managing a site which is under this convention. I'm not sure if it's clear, but you have to look if for each program convention, if your country is also has ratified the convention before answering this question, if you're not sure. This is it, Anatole. Thank you.
Yes, and I think that's a very good point that you've raised as well about the need for the national focal points to double check this. They will be very familiar with these questions because they are mirrored as well in section 1 of the questionnaire about the national level coordination and ratifications of different conventions and membership of different programs, and therefore this is work that you've already done, but indeed this may be a good opportunity for national focal points to double check that it is not suddenly indicated that you have ratified conventions that you have not, or that properties are designated under certain conventions when in fact it is not the case. And just a point to clarify, perhaps as opposed to other questions, in these drop-down lists in question 2.7, obviously, if it is possible yes, Valentino, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you do need to indicate, regardless of the status, what the level of interaction is, for instance. So even if you are not a member, the question 2.7 is about levels of cooperation, regardless of membership status. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. For example, this question on 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Heritage. If you are not under, I mean, your site is not, there is no link between you and the person responsible for this convention, you said no contact. In case you have, you can also say that to what extent you are communicating with other convention. But if you are not, is this question, I think there's one question in the chat which has just come, that if the question do not concern your site directly, choose the appropriate question. For example, in this case, there's no contact, because then we will consider it as no. I mean, we will check also for the section 1 where your state party has been asked if they have ratified this convention, and then we'll check also for this answer.
Absolutely, and you do have the possibility, I believe, it's in the.
To most of the case, you have the possibility of clicking on not applicable.
Yes.
If your site is not in concern, just not applicable. Else, in case that is you cannot see any possibility, I mean, not applicable option, choose the most appropriate one. For example, no contact, or the question. I mean, you change. I mean, to make sure that you are not concerned with the question.
Yes. Absolutely, and we will. This is a good opportunity as well to double check that question 2.1 and the subsequent questions are coherent. That, for instance, you do not say that the World Heritage property is not covered by one convention, but then say that it is in a subsequent question. So do double check on this one, coherence. This is perhaps, and that's, I suppose, Valentino, that's also why you raised it. This is one of the questions where we've had in the past and in previous regions one of the highest levels of small incoherences between the questions of a chapter. So please, this is a good opportunity to double check as well that everything makes sense from one question to another, and that membership status doesn't change in between questions within one page.
Okay, so just quickly, we have we've just reached 10, and we have we have one sort of answered question in the chat and a few other questions. So I think we take the questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap up the meeting. So
perfect.
So the first one, I believe you both have already addressed in some regard, as Valentino mentioned earlier, which is, hello, I'm finished with 70% of periodic reporting questionnaire. The rest of the questions are mostly non-relevant pertaining to the World Heritage Site under my jurisdiction, and hence have refrained from answering them. Do we have to reach the 100% mark before we make submission?
The answer is yes. When you submit the questionnaire at the end, it should be at 100%. If there are questions that are outside of your jurisdiction, you do have still a fair amount of time to reach out to those that are to the national authorities or the partners that may be able to provide this information. Normally, the questionnaire does not ask anything that isn't relevant to the World Heritage property itself. So it should be possible to reach out to the various partners that you may have at the national level and obtain the information that is not necessarily available with you. It's also why we give a number of months to fill out the questionnaire. It's to allow for this sort of a national level outreach efforts to fill out as much of the questionnaire as possible, but you do still have time to do so. So you do not need to fill out the questionnaire to 100% by the end of March. Obviously, if there are still ongoing consultations, that's completely acceptable. The content reviewers will have a look at the questionnaires as they are filled out, focusing, of course, on those with the highest percentages of completion, because that's the best use of their time and efforts. But if you've reached 70% and the rest is under consultation, that is okay. Just please make sure that these consultations are wrapped up by the time the questionnaire is submitted by the national focal points.
Right. Now we have our second question in the chat. Thanks for providing this opportunity. There are some fields in the questionnaire that are expected to be pre-filled by the World Heritage Center and the contents to be updated or validated by site managers. What if the information is not pre-filled, even if the documents have been provided to the center previously? Valentino?
Thanks on that, Michel. If you find this, some question, of course, have been pre-filled, as I said, especially geographic information table, maps, management documents also sometimes has been pre-filled. If you don't find them, please just click on validate and put a comment. In case, for example, for the case of maps, there is special procedures. You should click on the guidelines to see and the note to see what are the procedures to follow. You do not send maps directly to the center. You just follow the procedures concerning documents, for example, management plans. If you did not find any of them and you already know that the document has been sent to the World Heritage Center, click on validate and then put this information, because then we will be able to look in our database to see why this has not been pre-filled in the questionnaire, and we will come back to you after the submission of the questionnaire in July.
And just one point as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that questionnaires are pre-filled when the exercise begins, but that pre-fill is not updated live. So if you have submitted a management plan or whatever other document in the meantime, since when did we the pre-fill is done in the summer, so it's done before the exercise begins. So since last summer, essentially the late last summer, this will not yet be reflected in the questionnaire. It is a pickup of the information, and it is frozen at its status of, let's say, August of last year. So if you've submitted something in the meantime, it should be on our website on the tab of the relevant property, but it will not show up in the questionnaire itself. If you are not sure, or if you see that something that has been formally submitted, usually via the national authorities, the delegation, or sometimes the national focal points for World Heritage, to the World Heritage Center, please send a message to us or to the World Heritage Center, and we'll see where we stand with that document. But we do try and put, when we receive management documents or documents that are meant to be shared publicly with your authorization, we do try and put them online as soon as possible. But as I've said, if it's happened in the last 9 months or so, then it will not actually show up in the questionnaire itself just yet. We have one question on one of our fine points for Valentino. If a World Heritage property is located in the same area or district or near a geopark or Ramsar site, but they do not overlap, so it's not a multi-designation site in that sense, can they be listed under the same section?
No, actually, when your site is inscribed or listed under a designation, global geoparks, Ramsar site, Man Biosphere, is a special procedures for that, and there's a list which has been it is listed under the site, so you can even see this information on the website for this site, for your site. So if there's no overlap, so it's not considered. It is officially considered overlap if there is an action has been taken by the government and the procedure has been finalized, meaning that the site is also covered partly or fully under the designation. So in the case you consider there is a site nearby which is a Ramsar site, but it's not a World Heritage site, you cannot consider your site is covered or under the designation, of course. I think there's a question from Iran. So, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but if you wish to highlight the fact that there are properties or designated areas around the World Heritage property, you can of course also use the comment box.
Yes,
these will be read and they will be taken into consideration.
At the end of each chapter, the last part, there's a comment box where you can comment on any point on the chapter itself, on this chapter. So you can also mention this. So it will be taken also into consideration while we will analyze the data afterwards. And I think there's a question, Ran has from Iran, from the Foreign National Corps of Iran. So.
Hi again. I've got another question for you. In chapter 14.1, it says you could provide some information about successful experiences in World Heritage sites. Could we provide more than one experience, or is just a place for one experience? Thank you.
Natal, you want me to answer?
Well, you have more experience than me with the post-filling questions, but the just as a background to this, the center has committed for a number of years now and has been encouraged by the committee to share on our website and elsewhere good practice examples from across the regions. And so we thought that it would be a good opportunity to collect some of these examples through the periodic reporting exercise. If you have more than one example, that is entirely possible to add in that comment box, bearing in mind that, of course, the size of the comment box is limited in the questionnaire. If you have good practice examples and you have a lot, or you have more text than fits in that comment box, I would suggest that you simply share it with us via email, and we will forward it to the colleagues who take care of updating the good practice examples on the World Heritage Center's website as well, and we may get back to you for follow-up or pictures. But yes, so this is, if there are more than the text box allows, we are very happy to take that information just informally outside of the questionnaire as well, because the idea is also that we have on our website, outside of the periodic reporting exercise, that we have a repository of good practice examples, real good practice examples from the region that is relatively up to date as well, so that people can of the big World Heritage family across the world can share as well all the good ideas and experiences that they've had with one another. Anything to add, Valentino?
I have sent in the chat the link to the good practices examples that you can see. So you have a couple of them, so you might get inspired or might look at them and then reflect it on your site and to see where, I mean, this can help you to fill in the chapter 14. Just add to thanks Iran, because they are very well advanced in the questionnaire and most of the sites are 100%. A couple of them are just 99%. And just to congratulate them, well done for this, because there is a lot of work, and Iran especially has many sites. I don't remember how many in total, but I know that a couple of sites, and this has been well done and nearly filled now, most of them. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, and as well a number of other countries that have very high percentages of completion across the region already, including for Section 2. So we're very grateful for all of your efforts, and I think this will be very helpful. Just as a quick word for the outreach modalities for Section 2, that this is there is no formal process. We didn't want to make this heavier than it already is as an exercise. So our content teams and our reviewers will reach out on a case-by-case basis if they see something that needs to be raised with you or discussed with you, or where they're not sure that a question has been fully answered as it could. But there is no formal review. There's no specific timeline for this. It is really on a case-by-case basis. As they go through the questionnaires and as they read them, they will reach out if needed. On the other hand, if you have a question that you would like to discuss with any of the content team or the reviewers, please do not hesitate. Send us an email and say, on question 5.3.1, I have this question, I have this problem. Could someone give me guidance? And we'll very happily follow up on this and answer any question that you may have about it. So it's very much a two-way street. We'll reach out if we see something, and if you need any help, please do let us know. Okay, I think
we have a question from the site manager of Pakistan, from Buddha Runes, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I'm wrong. Wahab Shah.
Hi.
We can hear you. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All things where us in a World Heritage site as a site manager. Then this is the second session of questionnaire, but there I am asking that we have a connectivity problem too. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, it's coming in and out, but we can hear you.
Okay, dear, we have some connectivity problem in Pakistan to download your link and have no connection. So what we can do for this?
If I can ask a clarifying question, are you referring to the link to access the questionnaire or the link to access the meetings? Because these are two entirely separate links.
To the questionnaire.
Okay, so when we send the links to the questionnaire, they should guide you to the World Heritage website, where it will instruct you on how to change your password. The actual link is only active for 6 hours, which means that when a request is made, we will inform you when the email has been sent, and that link must be clicked on in the 6 hours that the email is sent. We do try our best to make sure that the email is sent during your working hours. If it is not possible, there are instructions in the actual email to then do to have access to the questionnaire without the 6 hour time frame, but it is a more lengthy and not as intuitive process. Now, if when you click on if I think for the sake of time, if you could please email us with the step-by-step process that you use to access the link when you try to access the questionnaire, this will help us to address exactly what the issue is for whether it's your site or for another site in Pakistan. Hopefully that clarifies a little bit of the process, but I definitely suggest emailing us with the exact steps and process you use, as well as screenshots of what happens during this process. That way we can properly address this. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for updating me. But sorry, but I'm asking that if is it convenient, then you can send me from the first day email that I will check it. That you asking that is active for 6 hours.
Let me answer, if you may, Michelle. We have sent you an email on the, I'm just checking now, the 17th of December, where we have actually helped you, your Natural Foods National Control, help you to access the questionnaire. Either if you have not received this email, I will send it back to you. It's on your Gmail. We have provide you the instructions so we can resend it to you again. And in case you will not be able to access the questionnaire, your questionnaire online, we might be able also to assist you remotely live so that we can have a call or phone call or maybe Teams so that we can see your screen so that we can help you to see where the problems is. I think probably this will be the best option, knowing that we have limited of time by the end of March for you to fill in, complete the questionnaire. So let's maybe, if you want, we will send you back again or forward you again the email. And if you're still having issues, write us back to us by email, and we will try to make it today or tomorrow or when you are available, except on weekend, we can help you to access the questionnaire at this stage.
Okay, dear, you will send the email again, then I will study it and I will check in the 6 working hours. Can it's okay?
That should be about right.
That should be, yes, that should be it, yes. I will send it to you right now, so you might need to check your email in 1 minute or so.
It's okay, you will send it right now. That I will check and then I will rejoin you.
I probably a separate call since this meeting will be ending, but yes.
This meeting will be ended approximately how many time it will take?
In probably in a minute, since we are 20 minutes over time. So we'll be ending the meeting almost instantly. So, but we'll be sure to recontact you immediately after. If anything, Valentino, do you want me to set up a meeting between you two, an online meeting for you to discuss, or will you call him separately?
We can have an online meeting and discuss together. Yes.
Yeah. One thing more, if there is convenience for you, then after a meeting you just call me, then we will discuss it on call.
Yes, we will do that. We will call you back. Hopefully we have your phone number. I think so. In case we do not, we have a phone number finishing by 97. If it's that, your phone number which finished by this number, we will call you on this number.
If there is convenient, then I will give you the phone number.
You can send it by email and we will call you back.
Yeah, of course, I will.
Okay.
I will. Dear, approximately how many time will get the meetings end in ending?
With the meeting will ending soon, very soon. So we'll have it in 15 minutes, let's say. That's fine for you?
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think with that, I'll pass to Anatol to close up the meeting for today. And thank you all for your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, and we're very grateful. Just to pick up on the last question that was raised in the chat, it is absolutely possible for you to edit your questionnaires all the way until the submission, which is due by the end of July. Obviously, the more information is available to the early reviewers, the better it is for all of us. But you have absolutely the possibility of adding to the questionnaire, changing answers, revising things until the National Focal Point submits. For any people who have access questions, please don't hesitate to reach out as soon as possible. Send us an email. For the National Focal Points, feel free to use the Teams platform, whatever is most convenient for you. Because we need to sort this out. We are a number of months now into the exercise, so it would be great if we could make sure that everyone has access to their questionnaire. But if you have any issues at any point in the process, do reach out to us via email as you encounter the issues. Don't wait. There will only be one more training session after this one, which also brings me to my closing reminders. That on the 25th of March we will have our last content session, which will be a 2-hour presentation session on urban heritage and sustainable development for World Heritage, which will notably include presentations by our Category 2 Center WeTrap in Shanghai, China, and also a presentation by Jyoti Hosagrahar, the Deputy Director of the World Heritage Center, on questions of sustainable development under the Convention. And let me thank you all again for your participation in these sessions, which has been very, very heartening to see, and clearly has also translated into excellent progress by many of you in filling out the questionnaires. And we hope that this will continue to be helpful for you. As a reminder as well, we do share the videos of all of these sessions and the presentations with at the National Focal Points for sure, at the end of every session, and they remain available because we know that there are a lot of different time zones in our region, and people also have a busy schedule, so you can view these sessions at your leisure at any point. We share all of these usually within 24 hours after the session has ended. And we will continue in the meantime to look at Section 1 questionnaires and to reach out to the National Focal Points as needed. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, the periodic reporting team, and the advisory bodies, and the field office colleagues as well of our UNESCO network will very happily follow up with you on any questions that you may have. And you have the address as well to reach us, our email address in the chat today. So thank you very much for your commitment and for all of your efforts. And we look forward to seeing you on the 25th of March for our last session on urban heritage and sustainable development. And with this, I think we can end this meeting. So thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you so much.